The labyrinth of being, a journey inward. The true journey of life is not outward, but inward. Within the depths of our being lies the peace we so desperately crave, the fulfillment we tirelessly seek. In a world where clamor and speed seem to dominate our existence, this book, whose author remains shrouded in mystery, invites us to embark on a pilgrimage to the very essence of life. Through its pages, the reader is guided along a path of profound introspection, where universal truths, transcending time and space, are unveiled. Each chapter is a meditation on fundamental aspects of human existence, from the lure of achievement and the importance of unwavering effort, to the joy found in simplicity and the vital need to live in the present. This book offers no easy answers, no quick fixes. Instead, it presents a clarion call to authentic personal transformation, to rediscover the essential, to find serenity in the everyday, and to embrace the eternal quest for meaning. Through poetic and profound language, we are invited to reconsider our priorities, to release what no longer serves us, and to reconnect with the truth of who we truly are. This is a book for those who seek more than superficial answers, for those willing to immerse themselves in the abyssal depth of their own being in pursuit of genuine wisdom and enduring peace. Every word, every reflection, echoes the inner voice that summons us back to what truly matters: connection with our essence, with the present moment, and with the grand mystery of life. Introduction: The Fallacy of Happiness. We live in an age where pursuit of happiness has become an almost pathological obsession, an endless race toward a destination that, ironically, seems to vanish the closer we get. In our haste to grasp that elusive sense of fulfillment, we mistake the goal for the journey, forgetting that perhaps happiness is not a destination, but a transient state, a fleeting pause in life's continuous flow. The fallacy of happiness lies in the belief that it is something to be possessed, something that can be captured and hoarded like a treasure. We have been taught since time immemorial that happiness is tethered to achievement, that it is the fruit of fulfilling our most fervent desires. Yet, what truly happens when that desire materializes? What occurs when we reach what we once considered the zenith of our aspirations? In our feverish rush to cram our lives with accomplishments and successes, we forget the ephemeral nature of happiness. We find ourselves ensnared in a cycle of perpetual dissatisfaction, where each conquered goal leaves a void that demands to be filled with new ambition. It is a wheel that never ceases to turn, an unending game where the rules shift with every breath, and victories, though sweet, turn bitter soon after. We could liken this cycle to the labor of Sisyphus, condemned to push a boulder uphill only to watch it roll back down, over and over. Happiness, in its popular conception, is that boulder, and we, in our ignorance, are Sisyphus, believing that true joy resides at the summit, only to discover that the summit is, in reality, a passing illusion. Modern societies have achieved marvels in science, technology, and the expansion of individual liberties. But in that dizzying race to dominate the external world, we have forgotten serenity of the internal realm. We have become disconnected from contemplation, from profound reflection, from the simple joy of existing in harmony with the present moment. And in that oblivion, happiness is transformed into a myth, a promise that never quite materializes. It is precisely this disconnection that fuels the fallacy of happiness. We have convinced ourselves that life is distilled into a series of events that must be conquered, as if each achievement were a trophy in the showcase of our lives. Yet, true happiness, the kind that does not fade with time, is not found in what we acquire, but in what we are. It is a state of being, not of having. An ancient wisdom whispers that life is but a dream, and that waking up is the true purpose of our existence. But how do we awaken when we are so engrossed in the pursuit of the unattainable? How do we find peace in a world that constantly incites us to desire more, to do more, to be more? The answer, seemingly simple, is profoundly complex in its application. We must learn to cherish the journey, to find delight in the mere act of walking, without obsessing over the final destination. This learning is no easy feat. It demands a detachment from the expectations instilled in us since childhood. It compels us to question the dominant narratives of our culture that equate success with happiness and failure with misery. But above all, it forces us to look inward, to confront ourselves in our rawest, most authentic form, stripped of the masks we often wear to shield ourselves from vulnerability. In this process of self-exploration, we discover that true happiness does not reside in what we do, but in how we do it. It is not the event itself that fills us with joy, but the attitude with which we approach it. It is the delight of sincere conversation, the exhilaration of a job well done, the satisfaction of a day lived with integrity and purpose. It is, in essence, the capacity to be fully present in every moment, to savor life in all its richness, free from the distractions of the past or the anxieties of the future. The fallacy of happiness has ensnared us in an illusion, a mirage that pulls us away from the purest, simplest reality of existence. It has led us to believe that life is a series of conquests, when in truth it is a journey of self-discovery and continuous growth. It has taught us to seek externally what can only be found within. And it is in that interior space, that sanctuary of calm and acceptance, where authentic happiness resides, the kind that does not depend on external circumstances, but on the peace we feel when in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. This introduction does not presume to offer definitive answers, for each individual must forge their own path to happiness. However, it seeks to serve as an invitation to reflect, to question, to peer beyond appearances, and to find in the simplicity of the present the true essence of joy. For at the end of the day, life is not a series of goals to be achieved, but a constant dance of the present, a waltz where every step, however small, is an expression of the purest happiness. If one can grasp and embrace this truth, they will have taken the first stride toward a more fulfilling and meaningful life. A life where the fallacy of happiness has been unmasked, replaced by a joy that endures, not because it is tied to an accomplishment, but because it springs from the simple act of being. It guides us toward the demystification of happiness. It is neither a straight nor an easy path. It requires a shedding of expectations that have deeply anchored themselves in our psyche over time. From childhood, we have been bombarded with the notion that life is a collection of milestones to be achieved to consider ourselves complete, satisfied, happy. First, love, graduation, a promotion, owning a home. Each of these events is presented as a stepping stone toward that supposed fulfillment. Yet, in most cases, once attained, they leave behind only a sense of emptiness. This void, this unsettling feeling that follows the realization of our most cherished dreams, is nothing but the echo of the fallacy we have embraced. At the apex of achievement, when everything we long for materializes, we confront an uncomfortable truth. Happiness does not reside at the summit of the accomplishment itself, but in the ascent. But even this realization is often insufficient to break the cycle. Once the void takes root, the human mind, ingenious in its search for meaning, quickly sets its gaze on a new peak, a new challenge, and the cycle begins anew. Perhaps one of the cruelest aspects of this fallacy is that it leaves us perpetually dissatisfied, incapable of fully enjoying the fruits of our efforts. We become prisoners of an endless race, always looking ahead, toward what we have yet to achieve, instead of reveling in what we already possess. In this sense, happiness, as has been sold to us, becomes a mirage, an illusion that, far from liberating us, binds us to an interminable cycle of desire and frustration. At this juncture, it is vital to pause and reflect. What is happiness, truly? Is it a permanent state of ecstasy and satisfaction, or is it something far more subtle, more ephemeral? Life, with its ebbs and flows, its moments of joy and sorrow, its light and shadow, teaches us that happiness cannot be fixed, immutable. It is, rather, a state of grace, a fleeting instant when everything seems to align, when mind and heart are at peace, even if only for a brief moment. These moments of genuine happiness are rarely tied to grand achievements or successes. More often, we find them in the simplest places, in the most mundane acts. The morning sun filtering through tree leaves, the sound of the sea caressing the shore, laughter shared with a loved one. It is in these moments, when we are truly present, when we set aside our worries and desires, that we experience happiness in its purest form. To reach this state of presence, we must first break free from the shackles of the happiness fallacy. This does not mean abandoning our ambitions or ceasing to pursue our dreams, but rather changing our relationship with them. Instead of viewing them as the ultimate source of our happiness, we must recognize that they are simply part of the journey, means to an end, but not the end itself. Life offers us countless opportunities to learn this lesson, though we rarely take it seriously. We become intoxicated by the promise of the future, by the idea that we will be happy when we achieve such and such a goal, and in the process, We forget to live in the present. But if we allow ourselves to pause, even for a moment, if we permit ourselves to breathe and feel, we will discover that happiness has always been within our grasp, patiently waiting for us to recognize it in the simplicity of the present. Ultimately, the fallacy of happiness is a trap we have set for ourselves, a narrative we have constructed that paradoxically prevents us from attaining what we so desperately desire. By unmasking it, we not only free ourselves from an unnecessary burden, but also open the door to a new way of being, a way of life where happiness is not a distant goal, but a constant companion, present in every step of the journey. This shift in perspective, though subtle, has the power to radically transform our experience of life. By letting go of the need to achieve, to conquer, to possess, we find a peace that transcends external circumstances. We realize that we do not need more, that we do not need be more to be happy. That happiness, in its purest essence, is simply being here and now, in this moment, in this place, being fully aware of the wonder of being alive. It is in this acceptance, in this surrender to the simplicity of being, that we find true happiness, a happiness that does not depend on external achievements, but on the peace we feel when in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. Chapter 1. The Trap of Achievement. In the vast theater of life, humanity has found in achievement a purpose and a justification for its existence. Since time immemorial, we have bowed before the altar of success, offering our most cherished hours, our deepest longings. In this blind pursuit, we have forgotten that achievement, far from being an inexhaustible source of satisfaction, is a subtle trap that, if not handled with caution, can imprison the soul in a perpetual cell of dissatisfaction. The trap of achievement is laid silently, like a shadow gliding through our thoughts, fueled by the belief that we will be complete once a certain goal is attained. We tell ourselves that when we acquire that house, that job, that social standing, then and only then will we know inner peace. However, this thought is an illusion, a mirage that vanishes as soon as we approach it. Achievement, by its very nature, is ephemeral. Its brilliance, so dazzling at first, soon fades, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Is this all there is? Is this the end of the journey? What now? These questions, far from offering comfort, become a silent burden we drag, desperately seeking the next objective, the next goal that promises to fill the void the previous achievement left behind. In the race for success, we forget that the path we traverse is as important, if not more so, than the goal itself. In our rush to achieve, to conquer, to prove ourselves, we sacrifice the present on the altar of the future, losing sight of the moment's beauty, the softness of the sigh, the warmth of the sunbeam filtering through the window. We become automatons, always striving, always yearning, always hoping that the next accomplishment will finally bring happiness. But what is achievement itself? Is it merely a trophy we can proudly display, tangible proof of our worth and competence? Or perhaps it is simply a mirage, a mental construct we have adopted as a guide in a world that is, in essence, uncertain and ever-changing? Achievement, in its crudest form, is nothing more than an idea, an illusion we have built to give meaning to our lives, and like all illusions, it has the power to captivate, to enchant, but also to disappoint. It is in this context that the trap of achievement reveals its full magnitude. It is not the achievement itself that ensnares us, but the expectation we project upon it. We convince ourselves that our worth as individuals is intrinsically linked to what we achieve, what we possess, what we display to the world. In this process, we forget that our true essence is not defined by our successes, but by how we live, by the quality of our relationships, by the depth of our connection with the world and with ourselves. By learning to be present on the journey, we discover that every step, however small, has intrinsic value. We realize that we do not need to wait to reach a goal, to feel fulfilled, to feel at peace. We can find satisfaction, joy, and peace in every segment of the path, in every breath, in every heartbeat. It is in this full presence that we find the true richness of life, a richness that does not depend on external achievements, but on our capacity to be fully alive, here and now. The journey is also a teacher, a guide that leads us along our path, showing us the lessons we need to learn, the truths we need to remember. It teaches us that life is a process, a continuous unfolding, and that there is no final point, no ultimate goal. It teaches us that every moment is an opportunity to grow, to learn, to become more fully ourselves. At the heart of this teaching lies the understanding that life is not something to be conquered, but something to be lived. It is not about accumulating achievements or reaching goals, but about experiencing the fullness of being, about being fully present in every moment, in every step of the way. It is in this experience of being, in this deep connection with life, that we find true happiness, a happiness that does not fade with time, but grows and deepens with every step we take. The paradox of the journey is that, although it is a path toward destination, that destination is never truly reached. There is always more to discover, more to explore, more to learn. And it is in this infinite exploration, this continuous growth, that we find the true essence of life. The journey is a destination, not because it leads us to a final point, but because it offers us the opportunity to live fully, to be present in every moment, to experience life in all its richness and diversity. In this book, I invite you to explore this truth, to challenge the narratives that have led you to focus on the destination, and to discover the richness of a journey. For ultimately, life is not a series of goals to be achieved, but a journey to be enjoyed, a path to be walked. And it is on this path, this continuous voyage, that we find the true essence of life, an essence not found in achievements, but in the experience of being. As we advance in this book, I invite you to carry this truth with you, to remember that the journey is a destination, that every step, however small, has intrinsic value, its own beauty. I invite you to be present, to enjoy the journey, to live every moment with full awareness, with full presence, because it is in this act of living fully that we find true happiness, a happiness that does not depend on what we achieve, but on how we live, how we experience life in all its fullness. This is a path. This is the goal. This is life. Let us live it fully with our whole being, with our whole heart, with our whole soul, because in the end, what truly matters is not where we arrive, but how we arrive, how we live, how we love, how we experience the miracle of being alive. Chapter 3, The Way to Success. Success, that coveted laurel so ardently pursued by many, is a chimera that, once attained, reveals its true nature, a burden the soul is not always prepared to bear. In the silent nights, when the mind is no longer distracted by the day's whirlwind, success can lay itself bare before us as a crushing responsibility, an oppressive weight that stifles the spirit and demands more than we ever imagined. Society has elevated success to a pedestal, presenting it as the pinnacle of personal fulfillment, the ultimate prize in life's race. We are taught, from our earliest breaths of consciousness, that success is the ultimate goal, that reaching the summit is a culmination of all our efforts, all our aspirations. But this vision of success, so deeply ingrained in our culture, is incomplete, superficial, and in many cases destructive. Success, as it has been presented to us, is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can bring recognition, material security, a sense of accomplishment that, though fleeting, is intoxicating. But on the other hand, it carries a weight we often don't anticipate, a weight that can wear down, corrupt, dehumanize. Because success not only requires effort to attain, it also demands constant exertion to maintain it, to protect it, to prevent it from vanishing like ash in the wind. This weight, this invisible burden, manifests in many ways. For some, it is the pressure to meet expectations, to continue performing at the level that led to success in the first place. For others, it is a constant fear of losing what they have gained, of falling from the peak, of being relegated to oblivion. And for still others, it is a feeling of isolation, of disconnection, of being unable to truly share their experience with those around them, because success, in its purest form, is a solitary path. Success can also create an internal dissonance, a chasm between public image and personal reality. As success grows, so does the distance between who we are and who we believe we must be. This gap, though imperceptible at first, can become an abyss that separates us from our true essence, from our humanity. We find ourselves trapped behind a mask of perfection, a facade we feel compelled to maintain at all costs, even when that facade begins to crack and crumble under the pressure. The weight of success becomes most evident when we realize that despite all we have achieved, despite all the goals reached, we still feel a void, a dissatisfaction that cannot be filled with more success, more accomplishments, more recognition. This emptiness, residing at the very heart of success, is a sign that something fundamental is missing, something that cannot be satisfied by what the external world offers. In the silence of the night, when the day's noise fades and we find ourselves alone with our thoughts, that's when the way to success becomes most palpable. It is in these moments of introspection, of reflection, that we begin to question the true value of what we have achieved. We ask ourselves if the price we have paid has been worth it, if the sacrifices we have made were justified, if the success we so ardently craved has brought the peace and happiness we expected. For some, success transforms into a golden cage, a place from which they cannot escape for fear of losing everything. They cling to their success like a lifeline, terrified that if they let go, they will be swept away by the currents of mediocrity and failure. But this prison, though seemingly secure, is a trap, a cage that limits our freedom, our creativity, our capacity to explore new possibilities, new paths. True success, the kind that carries no weight, that does not oppress, is that which arises from authenticity, from fidelity to oneself, from a deep connection with our essence. It is a success that does not depend on external approval or the expectations of others, but on personal fulfillment, on the realization of our deepest purpose. It is a success that does not confine us to a golden cage, but liberates us, allowing us to be who we truly are, without masks, without artifice, without pretension. But to attain this kind of success, it is necessary to shed the conventional idea of success as defined by society. It is necessary to redefine what it means to be successful, to reconfigure our priorities, to reorient our lives toward what truly matters, towards what genuinely fills us with joy, peace, and satisfaction. This redefinition process is not easy. It demands courage, introspection, and profound commitment to truth. The weight of conventional success teaches us that there is something beyond achievements, something beyond recognition, something beyond goals attained. It invites us to look beyond appearances, beyond expectations, beyond superficialities, and to discover the deeper truth of our existence. It calls us to explore what it truly means to be successful, to seek a success that not only benefits us, but also contributes to the well-being of others, to the well-being of the world. Success, in its highest form, is a reflection of our ability to live in harmony with ourselves, with others, with the world. It is a success that does not divide but unites, that does not exclude but includes, that does not oppress but liberates. It is a success that arises from authenticity, from integrity, from a deep connection with our true essence. It is a success that does not weigh us down but elevates us, that does not limit us but expands us. This is a success that, in the deepest part of our being, we all yearn for, a success that does not trap us in a golden cage, but gives us wings to fly, to explore, to be fully who we are, a success that does not isolate us from others but connects us, unites us, allows us to share our light, our love, our humanity. A success that does not depend on what we do or achieve, but on what we are, how we live, how we love. The way to conventional success can be overwhelming, but it is also an opportunity, a door that opens to a new way of living, a new way of being. It is an invitation to release what no longer serves us, to leave behind old definitions of success, and to embrace a new vision, a new reality. It is a call to authenticity, to integrity, to a deep connection with ourselves and the world. By letting go of the way to success, we discover a lightness, a freedom we had not known before. We realize that we do not need to be perfect or achieve impossible goals to be worthy of love, respect, happiness. We realize that true greatness does not reside in what we achieve, but in how we live, how we love, how we relate to the world. This chapter is an invitation to free the soul from the chains of conventional success, to release the weight imposed by external expectations, and to embrace a new form of success, one that liberates us, elevates us, allows us to be fully who we are. Because ultimately, true success is not a goal to be reached, but a life experience, a way of being, a way of existing in the world. Success in its true form is a paradox. It lures us with promises of satisfaction, recognition, fulfillment, and yet once we attain it, it often leaves us with a sense of emptiness, of bewilderment. This emptiness, which many try to ignore or fill with new achievements, is a sign that success, as we conceive it, is insufficient to sustain the fullness of our existence. It is an indication that there is something more, something deeper, something that transcends conventional definitions of success. When we reflect on the way to success, we cannot help but question the narratives imposed on us from an early age. We have been told that success is the ultimate goal, that everything in life must be geared towards achieving it. But what happens when that goal becomes a burden? What happens when success, instead of liberating us, traps us in a prison of expectations and responsibilities we are unprepared to handle? It is at this point that the way to success reveals its full magnitude. It is not just the effort required to achieve success that exhausts us, but also the constant need to maintain it, to protect it, to justify to others and to ourselves. This weight can be so oppressive that instead of enjoying what we have achieved, we find ourselves caught in a spiral of anxiety, fear, and dissatisfaction. Success, when pursued without a sense of purpose, without a deep connection to our true essence, becomes a burden that separates us from our authenticity, from our humanity. It leads us to live a life that is not truly ours, a life dictated by external expectations, by the opinions of others, by the need to meet standards that, deep down, have nothing to do with who we truly are. This type of success is an illusion, a social construct that distances us from what truly matters, from what genuinely gives us meaning and purpose. It pushes us to seek external approval, to measure our worth based on what we achieve, what we accomplish, how others perceive us. And in this process, we lose touch with our true nature, with our ability to be happy, to be at peace, to live a full and meaningful life. To free ourselves from the way to success, an act of courage is necessary, an act of rebellion against the narratives imposed on us. It is necessary to question what it truly means to be successful, to redefine our priorities, to reorient our lives towards what genuinely fills us with joy, satisfaction, and peace. This process is not easy. It requires profound commitment to truth, a willingness to confront our own shadows, to face our own insecurities. Ultimately, the way to success is a manifestation of our own fear, of our own insecurity. We fear not being enough, not being worthy, not being valuable, and we seek external success as a way to validate our existence. But this type of validation is fragile, temporary, unsatisfactory. It cannot sustain itself over time because it is not based on truth, but on an illusion. The true liberation from the way to success lies in authenticity, in the ability to be true to ourselves, to our essence, to who we truly are. It is a path of self-knowledge, self-acceptance, self-love. It is a path that leads us to shed external expectations, to let go of comparisons, to trust in our own experience, in our own wisdom, in our own intuition. This is a path of transformation, growth, evolution. It is a path that leads us to redefine what it truly means to be successful, to find a success that does not weigh, that does not oppress, that does not limit but expands, liberates, allows us to be fully who we are. It is a success that arises from a deep connection with our essence, with our truth, with our highest purpose. By embracing this type of success, we discover a lightness, a freedom we had not known before. We realize that we do not need to meet the expectations of others to be happy, to be at peace, to live a full and meaningful life. We realize that true greatness does not reside in what we achieve, but in how we live, how we love, how we relate to the world and to ourselves. This chapter is an invitation to reflect on the true meaning of success, to question conventional definitions, to explore new possibilities, to discover what truly fills you with joy, peace, and satisfaction. Because it is in this exploration, in this pursuit of authenticity, that we find the true essence of success. A success that does not weigh but liberates, that does not oppress but elevates, that does not divide but unites. The way to success can be overwhelming, but it is also an opportunity, a door that opens to a new way of living, a new way of being. It is an invitation to release what no longer serves us, to leave behind old definitions of success, and to embrace a new vision, a new reality. It is a call to authenticity, to integrity, to a deep connection with ourselves and the world. In this journey toward authentic success, I invite you to reflect on what it truly means to be successful for you, to question conventional definitions, to explore new possibilities, to discover what truly fills you with joy, peace, and satisfaction. Because it is in this exploration, in this pursuit of authenticity, that we find the true essence of success, a success that does not weigh but liberates, that does not oppress but elevates, that does not divide but unites. The liberation from the way to success is a process of rediscovery, of reconnection with our true essence, with who we truly are. It is a process of shedding masks, of letting go of pretenses, of living from a place of authenticity and truth. And it is in this process, in this transformation, that we find true freedom, true peace, true happiness. This is a path to authentic success. A success not measured in terms of achievements or possessions, but in terms of how we live, how we love, how we relate to the world. It is a success that does not weigh but elevates, that does not oppress but liberates, that does not divide but unites. It is a success that arises from a deep connection with our essence, with our truth, with our highest purpose. And in this success, in this authentic success, we find true fulfillment, true realization, true happiness. Because at the end of the day, true success is not a goal to be reached, but a way of being, a way of existing in the world, a way of living in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. This is a success that, in the depths of our being, we all yearn for, a success that does not confine us to a golden cage, but gives us wings to fly, to explore, to be fully who we are. Chapter 4. Adapting to New Standards. Human nature is, in its essence, a reflection of eternity in motion. Across centuries, we have evolved, transformed, adapted our existence to the demands of each era, ever seeking a truth that, though elusive, continues to guide our steps. In this perpetual dance of change and continuity, we are constantly compelled to adapt to new standards, to redefine our lives under the light of emerging paradigms, to reconcile who we are with what the world expects us to be. Adapting, in its deepest sense, is more than a simple adjustment to external circumstances. It is an internal alchemy, a transformation that begins in the most intimate fibers of our consciousness and extends outward into the world we inhabit. It is an act of courage, of renewal, of rebirth, in which we abandon the known, the comfortable, the secure, to embrace the new, the unknown, the uncertain. New standards, those canons that time and society impose upon us, are both a challenge and an opportunity. A challenge because they force us to leave behind what we have built, what we have come to consider unmovable, and an opportunity because they offer us the possibility to grow, to expand, to discover dimensions of our being that had previously remained hidden. To confront these new standards is, therefore, an act of courage, a confrontation with our own limitations, a constant struggle to remain true to ourselves amidst a rapidly changing world. The adaptation process is one of the most profound and demanding experiences we can undertake. It compels us to question what we have hitherto considered truth, to revise our beliefs, to challenge our perceptions. It invites us to break the chains of conformity, to escape the prison of our own expectations, to free ourselves from thought and behavior patterns that, though familiar, no longer serve us in this new context. It is a process of detachment, of letting go of the old to make space for the new, of allowing life's current to carry us towards unknown horizons. On this path of adaptation, we face the paradox of maintaining our essence while transforming ourselves, of being true to who we are while adapting to what the world demands of us. This paradox, far from being a contradiction, is the key to living an authentic and meaningful life in a constantly changing world. It is the art of navigating between being and becoming, of finding the balance between continuity and transformation, of reconciling stability with flexibility. Adapting to new standards is not a linear process, nor is it achieved once and for all. It is a continuous cycle, a spiral that takes us deeper and deeper into the core of our being. As we advance on this path, we discover that it is not merely about adjusting to external demands, but about aligning those demands with our internal truth. It is an act of balance, of constant negotiation between who we are and what the world asks us to be. In this process, it is crucial to maintain a clear awareness of who we truly are, of what we value, of what defines us at our core. For it is easy to get lost in the sea of external expectations, in the pressure to conform to what others deem as success, as worth, as fulfillment. It is easy to fall into the trap of trying to be everything to everyone, of adapting our lives to the standards of others without realizing that, in doing so, we are betraying our own essence. True adaptation, the kind that leads to a full and meaningful life, is not about yielding to external demands, but about finding a way to express our deepest truth in any context, under any circumstance. It is a process of self-affirmation, of authenticity, of integrity. It is the ability to be flexible without losing our essence, to adapt without compromising, to change without losing what we truly are. New standards, with all their apparent rigidity, can be an invitation to discover new dimensions of ourselves, to explore new ways of being, acting, thinking. They can be an opportunity to reinvent ourselves, to redefine our lives according to what truly matters, what genuinely makes us happy, what truly fills us with joy and purpose. But to seize this opportunity, we need to be courageous. We need to be willing to leave behind what no longer serves us, to embrace the new with an open mind and heart. In this journey of adaptation, it is also crucial to remember that we are not alone. All of us, to a greater or lesser extent, are facing the same challenges, the same pressures, the same transformations. We are all striving to find our place in a constantly changing world, to maintain our authenticity amidst a sea of external demands. And in this shared struggle, we can find strength, support, inspiration. We can learn from others, share our experiences, our successes, our failures, our lessons learned. Adapting to new standards is ultimately an act of self-love, of respect for our own truth, of commitment to our own evolution. It is a process of self-knowledge, of discovery, of growth. It is an opportunity to redefine who we are and how we want to live, to align our lives with our deepest essence, to create an existence that is truly ours, rather than one dictated by the expectations of others. In this process, we must not be afraid to fail, to make mistakes, to backtrack, because the path of adaptation is a path of learning, of experimentation, of trial and error. It is a path that challenges us to step out of our comfort zone, to face the unknown, to explore new territories of our being. And on this path, every step, every stumble, every error is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to get a little closer to the truth of who we truly are. This chapter is an invitation to embrace the adaptation process with courage, openness, and authenticity. It is an invitation to view new standards not as a threat, but as an opportunity to grow, to evolve, to open new dimensions of our being. Because ultimately, true adaptation is not about conforming to what others expect of us, but about finding a way to express our truth in any context, to live according to our own essence, to be fully who we are regardless of the circumstances. As we advance in this journey of adaptation, I invite you to maintain your essence, to remember who you truly are, not to lose sight of what truly matters. Because it is easy to get lost in the process. It is easy to be swayed by external demands. It is easy to forget what truly defines us. But if we maintain our awareness, if we remain true to ourselves, if we understand that true adaptation is a process of internal and external alignment, then we can navigate any change, any challenge, any new standard with grace, integrity, and authenticity. Chapter 5, The Shadow of Dissatisfaction. In the deepest recesses of the human psyche, in that dark and often unexplored corner where our oldest fears and most primal desires lie, lurks an insidious shadow that has accompanied humanity since its earliest days on Earth, the shadow of dissatisfaction. This shadow, as ancient as humanity itself, has been a constant companion on our journey, a subtle yet persistent presence that, though often ignored or repressed, never ceases to influence our thoughts, our emotions, our actions. Dissatisfaction, in its essence, is a feeling of lack, a sense that something is missing, that something essentially eludes us, that despite all we have achieved, despite all we possess, we are still not complete, still not fulfilled. It is a void that, though intangible, is profoundly real, a hollow and hard being that compels us to seek, to desire, to yearn, to never be entirely content with what we have, what we are, what we have attained. This shadow of dissatisfaction is, in many ways, the engine of human evolution, the impulse behind our greatest achievements, our grandest conquests. It is what pushes us to innovate, to improve, to advance, to not settle for what is, but to aspire to what could be. However, this very dissatisfaction, when not understood and managed, can transform into a destructive force, a source of anguish, frustration, and despair. For dissatisfaction, when it becomes a chronic state, when it seizes our consciousness and defines our existence, distances us from peace, from joy, from fulfillment. It leads us to live in a constant state of lack, of unfulfilled desire, a perpetual yearning. And in this state, we can never be truly present. We can never fully enjoy the moment. We can never find rest in what is, because we are always looking toward what is missing, toward what we have not yet attained. The shadow of dissatisfaction manifests in many ways in our daily lives. It can appear as a subtle restlessness, a sense of discomfort we cannot pinpoint, but that follows us wherever we go. It can emerge as an insatiable thirst for more, a constant desire to have, to do, to be more, that never seems to be quenched. Or it can manifest as a deep sadness, a melancholy that envelopes us and makes us feel that despite all we have achieved, despite all we possess, we are still empty, still incomplete. This feeling of dissatisfaction is not simply the result of failing to achieve our goals or meet our expectations. It is something deeper, more fundamental. It is a sign that something in our life is out of balance, that something in our soul needs attention, that we have lost connection with our essence, with who we truly are, with what we truly need to be at peace, to feel fulfilled, to be happy. The shadow of dissatisfaction is ultimately an invitation to introspection, to reflection, to self-awareness. It invites us to stop, to pause in our constant rushing forward, to look inward and ask ourselves, what is it that I truly lack? What do I truly need? What will truly make me feel whole? It urges us to stop seeking externally what can only be found within, to release the illusion that satisfaction lies in the next achievement, the next acquisition, the next goal attained, and to begin seeking in the present, in the here and now, in what we already are, in what we already have. Dissatisfaction, when understood and accepted, can become a catalyst for change, for growth, for transformation. It can be the spark that ignites the fire of self-awareness, leading us to explore our deepest motivations, propelling us to live more authentically, more aligned with our essence. But for this to happen, we need to confront the shadow. We need to look it squarely in the face. We need to recognize it for what it is. A part of us that, though uncomfortable, has a purpose, a function, a message. This shadow reminds us that true satisfaction is not found externally, in what we achieve, in what we possess, but internally, in connection with our essence, with our deepest self. It reminds us that as long as we seek fulfillment outside ourselves, we will always be dissatisfied, always feel that something is missing, always be chasing a shadow we can never grasp. It is only when we turn inward, when we begin to seek fulfillment within ourselves, when we realize that we are already complete, that the shadow of dissatisfaction begins to fade. But this inward turn is not easy. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to face our own shadows, to confront our own insecurities, to accept our own imperfections. It demands a profound commitment to truth, to who we truly are, and to what we truly need to be at peace, to feel fulfilled, to be happy. Dissatisfaction, in its deepest form, is a reflection of our disconnection from ourselves, from our essence, from our soul. It is a sign that we have lost touch with what truly matters, what genuinely gives us meaning and purpose. And it is only when we begin to reconnect with that essence, when we begin to live according to our deepest truth, that dissatisfaction begins to transform into satisfaction, into peace, into fulfillment. This chapter is an invitation to explore the shadow of dissatisfaction, to confront it, to understand it, to learn from it. It is an invitation to stop seeking satisfaction outside ourselves, to let go of the illusion that fulfillment is external, and to begin seeking it within, in what we already are, in what we already have. Because it is only in this connection with our essence, with our truth, with our deepest self, that we find true satisfaction. A satisfaction that does not depend on what we achieve, but on what we are, how we live, how we relate to ourselves and the world. The shadow of dissatisfaction is a reminder that life is a process, a continuous journey of growth, learning, and transformation. It reminds us that we will never be completely satisfied as long as we seek satisfaction outside ourselves, as long as we try to fill the internal void with external achievements, as long as we seek fulfillment in what is beyond our control. It invites us to turn inward, to seek fulfillment in what we already are, in what we already have, in what is already here in the present, in the now. In this journey toward authentic satisfaction, I invite you to face your own shadow of dissatisfaction, to confront your own unfulfilled desires, to explore what you truly need to feel complete, to be at peace, to be happy. because it is in this exploration, in this confrontation with our own shadows, that we find true satisfaction. A satisfaction that does not depend on what we achieve, but on what we are, how we live, how we relate to ourselves and the world. Chapter 6. Redefining Purpose. Purpose, that North Star guiding our existence, is a concept as ancient as humanity itself. From the dawn of civilization, we have sought to give meaning to our lives, to find a reason, a motive that justifies our presence in this vast and enigmatic universe. Purpose has been, for many, the compass that has allowed them to navigate life's turbulent seas, the lighthouse that has illuminated their path through the darkness. However, like everything in life, purpose is not a fixed, immutable concept. It is a living entity, constantly evolving, requiring redefinition as we advance on our journey. Redefining purpose is not merely an act of reflection. It is an act of renewal, of resurrection. It is a process in which we shed old narratives that no longer serve us, ideals and aspirations that, though once relevant, have lost their luster, their vitality. It is a moment in which we allow ourselves to leave behind what was, what we believe should be, and open ourselves to what is, to what our soul whispers to us in the quiet of the night, when the world's noise fades and only the inner voice remains, that voice that never lies, never deviates, always knows the truth. Purpose, in its essence, is the purest expression of our soul in the world. It is the external manifestation of our internal being, the way our essence translates into action, creation, life. But often, in the rush of living, in the race to achieve goals and meet expectations, we lose sight of our true purpose. We disconnect from our essence and begin to live according to purposes others have defined for us, according to expectations society has imposed upon us. This bewilderment, this dissonance between who we truly are and who we believe we should be, is the root of much of the dissatisfaction, anguish, and emptiness we experience in life. For when we live a life not aligned with our true purpose, when we follow a path that does not resonate with our essence, we move away from fulfillment, from peace, from happiness. We become actors in a play we have not written, whose strings are manipulated by invisible hands, shadows gliding through life without leaving a true mark. Redefining purpose is, therefore, an act of liberation, of authenticity, of courage. It is a process in which we allow ourselves to question what we had taken for granted, in which we dare to explore new paths, new possibilities, new ways of being. It is a moment in which we sit with ourselves in silence and ask, what do I truly want? What does my soul yearn for? What gives me life? What fills me with joy? What makes me feel truly alive? These questions, though seemingly simple, are profound and transformative. They lead us to explore the depths of our being, to confront our own shadows, to discover what truly matters, what genuinely gives us meaning and purpose. They invite us to shed external expectations, to set aside definitions of success and purpose that others have imposed upon us, and create our own definitions, our own narratives, our own stories. This redefinition process is not easy. It requires exceptional courage, a willingness to let go of what no longer serves us, a deep commitment to truth, to our truth, to who we truly are. It is a process that challenges us to look beyond the superficial, to go beyond the known, to explore the uncharted territories of our soul. But it is only through this process that we can find a purpose that truly resonates with our essence, that truly gives us life, that truly makes us feel full, complete, fulfilled. Purpose is not something found outside of us, in the external world, in achievements or possessions. It is something discovered within, in the deepest part of our being, in that part of us that has always known the truth, that has always known the way. It is something that emerges when we allow ourselves to be truly ourselves, when we stop trying to be what others want us to be, when we allow ourselves to live from our essence, from our truth, from our deepest self. Redefining purpose is ultimately an act of self-love, of respect for our own truth, of commitment to our own evolution. It is a process in which we allow ourselves to be who we truly are, rather than who others expect us to be. It is an invitation to live an authentic life, aligned with our essence, with our deepest self, with what truly matters to us. This chapter is an invitation to explore your own purpose, to question what you have taken for granted, to redefine what truly matters to you. It is an invitation to shed external expectations, to set aside definitions of purpose that others have placed upon you, and to create your own definitions, your own narratives, your own stories. Because it is only when we live a life aligned with our true purpose that we can find fulfillment, peace, and happiness. Redefining purpose is not a one-time process. It is a continuous cycle, a spiral that takes us deeper and deeper into the core of our being. As we advance in life, our purpose can also evolve, transform, take on new forms, new expressions. What was once relevant may cease to be so. What was once a longing may transform into a memory. What was once a goal may become a lived and assimilated experience. In this redefinition process, it is crucial to maintain a connection with our essence, with our truth, with our deepest self. It is crucial to listen to that inner voice, that intuition that always knows the way, that always knows the truth. It is crucial to be true to ourselves, to who we truly are, to what truly matters to us. Because it is only through this fidelity, this authenticity, that we can find a purpose that truly resonates with our essence, that truly gives us life, that truly makes us feel full, complete, fulfilled. This chapter is an invitation to redefine your purpose, to explore what truly matters to you, to create a life that is aligned with your essence, with your truth, with your deepest self. It is an invitation to shed external expectations, to set aside definitions of purpose that others have imposed upon you, and to create your own definitions, your own narratives, your own stories. Because it is only when we live a life aligned with our true purpose that we can find fulfillment, peace, happiness. In this journey towards redefining purpose, I invite you to be courageous, to be authentic, to be true to yourself. I invite you to explore the depths of your being, to confront your own shadows, to discover what truly matters to you, what truly gives you meaning and purpose. Because it is only through this exploration, this commitment to your own truth, that you can find a purpose that truly resonates with your essence, that truly gives you life, that truly makes you feel full, complete, fulfilled. Chapter 7. Undoing the Cardinal Sins. In the vast tapestry of human existence, the cardinal sins stand as shadows that obscure the light of our soul, as insidious obstacles that hinder our path toward fulfillment, toward true inner peace. These sins, identified and codified by ancient spiritual traditions, are not mere transgressions of moral norms, but reflections of the deep internal struggles we wage in the theater of our own minds. They are manifestations of our weaknesses, our insecurities, our deepest fears. Yet, they are also disguised teachers, bearers of lessons that, if we are able to unveil them, can lead us toward a more conscious, more authentic, more fulfilling life. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Each of these sins represents an aspect of our nature that, when not understood and balanced, can lead us astray from our true path, distance us from our essence, trap us in a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction and suffering. But these sins in their essence are not enemies to be defeated, but aspects of our being that need to be integrated, understood, transformed. To undo the cardinal sins does not mean to deny or repress them, but to transcend them, to rise above their influences and find within them the seeds of our own redemption. Pride, that excessive self-esteem that inflames the ego and leads us to believe we are superior to others, is in reality a reflection of our own insecurity, of our fear of not being enough, of not being worthy. It is an attempt to compensate for our lack of self-acceptance, to fill the internal void with a false sense of superiority. To undo pride does not mean to renounce dignity, but to transform it into humility, into a recognition of our true worth that does not depend on comparing ourselves to others, but on our connection with our essence, with who we truly are. It is an act of self-affirmation, of accepting our humanity with all its imperfections, of finding in our vulnerability true strength. Greed, that insatiable desire to possess more, to accumulate wealth and material goods, is a manifestation of our internal lack, of our feeling that it is never enough, that we always need more to be happy, to feel complete. But this, far from filling us, empties us, leaving us trapped in a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction, yearning, and scarcity. To undo greed does not mean to renounce material possessions, but to find balance between what we possess and what we truly need, to recognize that true wealth is not in what we accumulate, but in what we are, how we live, how we love. It is an act of generosity, of learning to let go, to share, to trust in the abundance of the universe. Lust, that unrestrained desire seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake, without regard for consequences, is a manifestation of our disconnection from our own sexuality, from our body, from our deepest essence. It is an attempt to fill the internal void with external experiences, to seek temporary pleasure as a solution to existential anguish. To undo lust does not mean to repress desire, but to transform into love, into connection, into a sacred expression of our humanity. It is an act of integration, of learning to honor our body, our sexuality, our vital energy, of finding in true love the source of true satisfaction. Envy, that poison that corrodes the soul and makes us desire what others have, is a manifestation of our own dissatisfaction, of our lack of gratitude for who we are, for what we have, for what we have achieved. It is a reflection of our own insecurity, of our belief that we are not enough, that we need what others have to be happy, to feel complete. To undo envy does not mean to ignore our desires, but to transform them into admiration, into inspiration, into a recognition that what others have does not diminish who we are, but shows us what is possible for us. It is an act of gratitude, of learning to value what we already have, of finding in our own life the source of our happiness. Gluttony, that uncontrollable desire to consume more than we need, is a manifestation of our disconnection from our body, from our health, from our deepest essence. It is an attempt to fill the internal void with food, drink, substances that offer temporary relief, but ultimately leave us emptier, more dissatisfied, more disconnected from ourselves. To undo gluttony does not mean to renounce the pleasure of eating, but to find balance, moderation, respect for our body, our health, our life. It is an act of consciousness, of learning to listen to our body, to nourish it with what it truly needs, to find in self-care the source of true satisfaction. Wrath, that burning emotion that consumes us and leads to act impulsively, is a manifestation of our own frustration, our fear, our sense of powerlessness in life circumstances. It is an attempt to protect ourselves, to defend ourselves, to assert ourselves, but when not understood and managed, it distances us from peace, from love, from connection with ourselves and with others. To undo wrath does not mean to repress our emotions, but to transform them into understanding, into empathy, into a force that propels us to act constructively in a way that promotes peace, justice, and love. It is an act of transformation, of learning to channel our energy in a way that empowers us, connects us, elevates us. Sloth, the lethargy that prevents us from acting, that keeps us trapped in inertia, is a manifestation of our lack of purpose, of our disconnection from our essence, from our passion, from our desire to live fully. It is a reflection of our feeling that nothing is worthwhile, that there is nothing that inspires us, motivates us, pushes us to act. To undo sloth does not mean to force ourselves to be productive, but to find what truly passionate us, what fills us with life, what makes us feel fulfilled. It is an act of awakening, of learning to connect with our vital energy, with our creativity, with our passion for life. This chapter is an invitation to redefine your purpose, to explore what truly matters to you, to create a life that is aligned with your essence, with your truth, with your deepest self. It is an invitation to shed external expectations, to set aside definitions of purpose that others have imposed upon you, and to create your own definitions, your own narratives, your own stories. Because it is only when we live a life aligned with our true purpose that we can find fulfillment, peace, happiness. In this journey towards redefining purpose, I invite you to be courageous, to be authentic, to be true to yourself. I invite you to explore the depths of your being, to confront your own shadows, to discover what truly matters to you, what truly gives you meaning and purpose. Because it is only through this exploration, this commitment to your own truth, that you can find a purpose that truly resonates with your essence, that truly gives you life, that truly makes you feel full, complete, fulfilled. Chapter 7. Undoing the Cardinal Sins. In the vast tapestry of human existence, the cardinal sins stand as shadows that obscure the light of our soul, as insidious obstacles that hinder our path toward fulfillment, toward true inner peace. These sins, identified and codified by ancient spiritual traditions, are not mere transgressions of moral norms, but reflections of the deep internal struggles we wage in the theater of our own minds. They are manifestations of our weaknesses, our insecurities, our deepest fears. Yet, they are also disguised teachers, bearers of lessons that, if we are able to unveil them, can lead us toward a more conscious, more authentic, more fulfilling life. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Each of these sins represents an aspect of our nature that, when not understood and balanced, can lead us astray from our true path, distance us from our essence, trap us in a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction and suffering. But these sins in their essence are not enemies to be defeated, but aspects of our being that need to be integrated, understood, transformed. To undo the cardinal sins does not mean to deny or repress them, but to transcend them, to rise above their influences and find within them the seeds of our own redemption. Pride, that excessive self-esteem that inflames the ego and leads us to believe we are superior to others, is in reality a reflection of our own insecurity, of our fear of not being enough, of not being worthy. It is an attempt to compensate for our lack of self-acceptance, to fill the internal void with a false sense of superiority. To undo pride does not mean to renounce dignity, but to transform it into humility, into a recognition of our true worth that does not depend on comparing ourselves to others, but on our connection with our essence, with who we truly are. It is an act of self-affirmation, of accepting our humanity with all its imperfections, of finding in our vulnerability true strength. Greed, that insatiable desire to possess more, to accumulate wealth and material goods, is a manifestation of our internal lack, of our feeling that it is never enough, that we always need more to be happy, to feel complete. But this, far from filling us, empties us, leaving us trapped in a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction, yearning, and scarcity. To undo greed does not mean to renounce material possessions, but to find balance between what we possess and what we truly need, to recognize that true wealth is not in what we accumulate, but in what we are, how we live, how we love. It is an act of generosity, of learning to let go, to share, to trust in the abundance of the universe. Lust, that unrestrained desire seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake, without regard for consequences, is a manifestation of our disconnection from our own sexuality, from our body, from our deepest essence. It is an attempt to fill the internal void with external experiences, to seek temporary pleasure as a solution to existential anguish. To undo lust does not mean to repress desire, but to transform into love, into connection, into a sacred expression of our humanity. It is an act of integration, of learning to honor our body, our sexuality, our vital energy, of finding in true love the source of true satisfaction. Envy, that poison that corrodes the soul and makes us desire what others have, is a manifestation of our own dissatisfaction, of our lack of gratitude for who we are, for what we have, for what we have achieved. It is a reflection of our own insecurity, of our belief that we are not enough, that we need what others have to be happy, to feel complete. To undo envy does not mean to ignore our desires, but to transform them into admiration, into inspiration, into a recognition that what others have does not diminish who we are, but shows us what is possible for us. It is an act of gratitude, of learning to value what we already have, of finding in our own life the source of our happiness. Gluttony, that uncontrollable desire to consume more than we need, is a manifestation of our disconnection from our body, from our health, from our deepest essence. It is an attempt to fill the internal void with food, drink, substances that offer temporary relief but ultimately leave us emptier, more dissatisfied, more disconnected from ourselves. To undo gluttony does not mean to renounce the pleasure of eating, but to find balance, moderation, respect for our body, our health, our life. It is an act of consciousness, of learning to listen to our body, to nourish it with what it truly needs, to find in self-care the source of true satisfaction. Wrath, that burning emotion that consumes us and leads us to act impulsively, is a manifestation of our own frustration, our fear, our sense of powerlessness in life circumstances. It is an attempt to protect ourselves, to defend ourselves, to assert ourselves, but when not understood and managed, it distances us from peace, from love, from connection with ourselves and with others. To undo wrath does not mean to repress our emotions, but to transform them into understanding, into empathy, into a force that propels us to act constructively in a way that promotes peace, justice, and love. It is an act of transformation, of learning to channel our energy in a way that empowers us, connects us, elevates us. Sloth, the lethargy that prevents us from acting, that keeps us trapped in inertia, is a manifestation of our lack of purpose, of our disconnection from our essence, from our passion, from our desire to live fully. It is a reflection of our feeling that nothing is worthwhile, that there is nothing that inspires us, motivates us, pushes us to act. To undo sloth does not mean to force ourselves to be productive, but to find what truly passions us, what fills us with life, what makes us feel fulfilled. It is an act of awakening, of learning to connect with our vital energy, with our creativity, with our passion for life. To undo the cardinal sins is not an act of denial, but of transformation. It is a process in which we learn to understand our own shadows, to integrate them, to transform them into light, into strength, into wisdom. It is a process in which we free ourselves from the chains of our weaknesses, our insecurities, our fears, and find within ourselves the strength to live a full, authentic, conscious life. It is a path of self-knowledge, self-acceptance, self-transformation. This chapter is an invitation to explore your own cardinal sins, to confront your own shadows, to learn from them, to transform them into strength, into wisdom, into light. It is an invitation to stop seeing these sins as enemies to be defeated and to begin seeing them as teachers, as aspects of yourself that need to be understood, integrated, transformed. Because it is only through this integration, this transformation, that we can find true peace, true fulfillment, true happiness. In this journey towards undoing the cardinal sins, I invite you to be brave, to be honest, to be compassionate with yourself. I invite you to explore the depths of your being, to confront your own shadows, to discover what you truly need to be at peace, to feel fulfilled, to be happy. Because it is only through this process of self-knowledge, self-acceptance, self-transformation that you can find true liberation, true fulfillment, true peace. Chapter 8. The importance of constant effort. In the vast canvas of existence, constant effort stands as a brushstroke that traces the deepest and most enduring lines of our lives. It is an act of will, an unyielding commitment to action, to persistence, to the firm resolve to advance despite the adversities, the obstacles, the detours that life inevitably presents. Constant effort is not merely a mechanical task, a soulless, repetitive exercise. It is, in its purest essence, an expression of the soul, a reflection of the inner determination to manifest in the world what we carry in our heart, our mind, our spirit. Constant effort is a cornerstone upon which are built not only tangible achievements, but also the intangible qualities that define a person's true greatness: resilience, strength, discipline, patience. It is the antithesis of the immediacy that so characterizes our time, a reminder that the most valuable things in life, those that truly endure, are not attained overnight, but through arduous, meticulous work, repeated day after day, year after year, in silent devotion to a cause, a dream, a purpose. In an era that glorifies quick success, instant results, effortless achievement, the importance of constant effort fades, dissolving into noise of empty promises and easy solutions. But those who have walked the hardest paths, who have persevered through the toughest trials, know that it is precisely in constant effort where the true reward lies, a reward that transcends the material and settles in the spiritual, in the deep satisfaction of knowing that one has given their best, that they have worked with integrity, passion, and dedication. Constant effort is, in its essence, a form of love, love for what one does, love for what one wishes to achieve, love for one's own capacity to overcome, to transcend limitations, to go beyond what was believed possible. It is a love that is not nourished by immediate rewards, but by the certainty that every small step, every small advance, is another brick in construction of something larger, more lasting, more meaningful. It is a love expressed in constancy, in discipline, in the ability to rise again and again, no matter how many times one has fallen, no matter how hard the path, no matter how distant the destination seems. Constant effort is not merely a repetition of actions. It is not a mechanical act devoid of soul. It is a process of transformation, a journey as internal as it is external, a dance between action and reflection, between doing and being. Every effort, every action, every step is an opportunity to grow, to learn, to deepen one's understanding of oneself and the world around us. It is an act of creation, of manifestation, of bringing into the world what we carry within, of turning dreams, visions, and desires that burn in the depths of our being into reality. In constant effort, We find the key to overcoming the toughest trials, to weathering the fiercest storms, to standing firm amidst uncertainty and chaos. It is a shield that protects us from despair, an anchor that keeps us centered when everything else seems to crumble. It is a source of our resilience, our strength, our ability to face any challenge with the certainty that as long as we keep striving, as long as we keep moving forward, as long as we keep putting one foot in front of the other, there will always be a way, there will always be a solution, there will always be a possibility of reaching what we seek. But constant effort is not just a means to an end. It is, in itself, an end, a reward, a source of satisfaction and fulfillment. It is in the effort, in the process, in the daily dedication, that we find true fullness, true peace, true happiness. For it is in constant effort that we find ourselves, where we discover what we are truly capable of, where we forge our character, where we shape our identity. It is in constant effort that we become who we are meant to be. Constant effort also teaches us the importance of patience, perseverance, and faith in the process. It teaches us that the most valuable results, the most significant rewards, are not always seen immediately, that sometimes it is necessary to work in silence, in the dark, trusting that every action, however small, is contributing to something larger, something more important, something that will eventually manifest in its own time, in its own way. Constant effort reminds us that life is not a race but a marathon, that it is not about arriving first, but about staying on the path, about continuing to move forward, about not giving up, about not stopping. It teaches us that every step counts, that every effort matters, that every day is an opportunity to get a little closer to our dreams, our goals, our vision. It teaches us that true success is not measured by how quickly we achieve our goals, but by the constancy with which we work to achieve them, by the dedication with which we commit ourselves to our purpose, by the passion with which we live our lives. This chapter is an invitation to rediscover the importance of constant effort, to value daily dedication, to find satisfaction in the process, in the work, in the effort. It is an invitation to live with purpose, with passion, with determination, not to give in to difficulties, not to be discouraged by obstacles, not to lose sight of what truly matters. Because it is in constant effort that we find the true reward, a reward not measured in material terms, but in terms of personal growth, inner fulfillment, spiritual peace. In this journey toward the importance of constant effort, I invite you to be persevering, to be patient, to be firm in your commitment to your dreams, to your goals, to your purpose. I invite you to find in each day a new opportunity to strive, to work, to advance, to give your best. Because it is only through constant effort that we can achieve true fulfillment, true peace, true happiness. Life, in its complexity, offers countless opportunities to lose ourselves in worries and remorse, in longings for a tomorrow that promises to be better than today, in fantasies of an idealized past that was never as perfect as we remember it. But in doing so, we sacrifice the present, that instant when life truly happens, that point of contact between our soul and the universe where the true alchemy of existence takes place. Living in the present is, in essence, an act of reconnection, a homecoming, a reminder that life does not wait, that every moment we let pass is a lost treasure, a fragment of eternity that we can never recover. The ability to live in the present is, however, an art that requires practice, patience, and above all, a profound willingness to let go. To let go of the past with its attachments and wounds, to release the future with its promises and fears, and to embrace the now with all it brings, with its beauty and its imperfection, with its light and its shadow. It is an act of faith, of trust at this moment, as it is contains everything we need, that there is nothing beyond it that should worry or consume us. It is a form of liberation, of breaking the invisible chains that bind us to what once was, or what could be, and of living fully in what is here, in what is now. But how do we achieve this full presence? How do we cultivate the ability to be truly present in every moment instead of getting lost in the distractions of the past or the future? The answer lies in mindfulness, in full attention, in the ability to be completely engaged in the experience of the now, without judging, without comparing, without anticipating. It is a state of being in which we fully immerse ourselves in the activity we are performing, in the conversation we are having, in the emotion we are feeling. It is a total surrender to life, a commitment to be here, to exist here, to live here. Living in the present also implies accepting the impermanence of life, recognizing that everything we experience is transient, that every moment is unique, and that once it is gone, it does not return. This acceptance is not passive resignation, but an active celebration of life as it is, a deep appreciation of the fleeting beauty of each instant, a gratitude for what we have now, for what we are now, for what we experience now. It is an invitation to stop chasing what we do not have, to stop regretting what we have lost, and start enjoying what is here, what is present, what is alive in this moment. Living in the present is also an act of courage. It requires the bravery to face oneself, to be in silence with one's own thoughts, to confront the emotions that arise without trying to evade or suppress them. It is an act of radical honesty, of looking in the mirror of the now and accepting what is seen, without adornments, without masks, without pretensions. It is a commitment to authenticity, to the truth of who we are in every moment, to the reality of our lives as they are, not as we would like them to be. In practice, living in the present means simplifying life, getting rid of unnecessary distractions, of thoughts and worries that pull us away from the now. It means cultivating mindfulness in every action, in every word, in every thought. Being completely present in what we're doing without letting the mind wander to the past or the future. It means being totally present with the people we are with, listening attentively, connecting with them in a deep and meaningful way, without thinking about what we're going to say next or what we have to do afterward. It is a state of flow, of merging with the experience of the moment, in which we lose track of time and completely immerse ourselves in the now. The reward of living in the present is a fuller, richer, more satisfying life. It is a life in which we experience every moment with an intensity and clarity that are not possible when we are trapped in shadows of the past or in the illusions of the future. It is a life in which we find peace amidst chaos, in which we discover beauty in the everyday, in which we connect more deeply with ourselves and with others. It is a life in which we stop chasing happiness as a distant goal and begin to experience it here and now, in this very moment, in this very breath. This chapter is an invitation to live in the present, to let go of the past, to release the future, and to embrace the now with all it brings. It is an invitation to awaken to the life that is happening here and now, to experience the fullness of the present moment, to find it the peace, happiness, and fulfillment we have been seeking. Because it's only in the present, in this moment, that life truly happens, that the true magic of existence unfolds, that the true meaning of life is revealed. Living in the present is a path, a continuous process of learning and growth, a journey toward greater awareness, greater connection, greater fulfillment. It is a path that requires practice, patience, and above all, a profound commitment to oneself, to life, to the truth of who we are. But it is a path worth walking, because it is only when we live in the present that we truly live, that we truly experience life in its totality, in its depth, in its fullness. Conclusion: the eternal quest. In the deepest folds of our existence, in that intangible space where the soul meets the vastness of the universe, lies the eternal quest, that incessant yearning that has defined and guided humanity since time immemorial. It is a quest that transcends time, traverses the boundaries of history and the barriers of culture, a quest that knows no rest, no end. In this journey, every human being, from the humblest to the most exalted, finds themselves enveloped in a voyage into the unknown, into the infinite, in an attempt to understand, to discover, to reach that which always seems to be beyond our grasp. The eternal quest is, in its essence, a dance between the known and the unknown, between the visible and the invisible, between the tangible and the ethereal. It compels us to look beyond the surface of things, to explore the mysteries of the world and of ourselves, to ask ourselves again and again, what is the purpose of all this? What does it truly mean to live? Where does truth reside? These questions, though often without clear, definitive answers, push us forward, motivate us to keep exploring, to keep searching, to not settle for easy or superficial answers, but to go deeper, to inquire, to challenge what we think we know. In eternal quest, every step we take, every discovery we make, every truth we unravel is not an end in itself, but a starting point towards new questions, new mysteries, new challenges. Life, in its infinite complexity, does not offer us final answers. It does not grant us a closed or conclusive ending, but invites us to participate in a continuous process of learning, growth, and transformation. In this process, we discover that the quest is not so much about reaching a destination, but about the journey itself, about the path we traverse, about the experiences we live, about the lessons we learn. The eternal quest is an expression of the soul, a manifestation of our deepest desire to understand, to connect, to transcend. It leads us to explore the limits of our knowledge, to challenge the boundaries of our understanding, to venture into unknown territories both in the external world and within our own being. It is a quest that confronts us with our own limitations, our own shadows, our own fears, but which also reveals our greatness, our capacity to love, to create, to dream. In this journey, we encounter the paradox that the more we seek, the more we realize what we don't know, how vast and incomprehensible the universe is, how deep and unfathomable our own being is. But it is this realization, far from discouraging us, that fills us with humility, with wonder, with a profound respect for the mystery of life. It teaches us that true wisdom does not consist of accumulating answers, but of learning to live with the questions, of embracing uncertainty, of accepting that not all truths can be understood by the human mind. The eternal quest also shows us that life is not a straight line, not a predefined path we must follow without deviation, but a labyrinth of possibilities, of choices, of intersecting paths. In this labyrinth, every choice we make, every direction we take, leads us to new experiences, new learning opportunities, new ways of being. And although we may sometimes feel lost, disoriented, and confused, the quest itself guides us, leads us back to the center, to that place within us where truth, peace, and fulfillment reside. At the heart of the eternal quest, we discover that what we are truly looking for is not outside of us, in the external world, in the goals we achieve, in the accomplishments we accumulate, but within us, in our connection with our essence, with our deepest self, with the source of all that is. It is a journey inward, towards a recognition that we are already complete, that we already have within us everything we need to be happy, to be at peace, to live fully. It is a quest that leads us to shed illusions, to cast off masks, to release the burdens we have accumulated along the way, and to return to the simplicity, to the purity, to the truth of who we truly are. But although this quest leads us inward, towards the discovery of our true essence, it also connects us with the external world, with others, with life in all its forms. It teaches us that life is not an isolated experience, that we are not alone in our quest, but that we are deeply connected with all that exists, that our actions, our thoughts, our emotions have an impact on the world around us, that we are part of a larger whole, vaster, more complex than we can comprehend. It is a quest that invites us to live with compassion, with empathy, with love, to recognize that in our personal quest, we are also participating in humanity's collective quest, in life's own journey towards greater awareness, greater understanding, greater fulfillment. In the conclusion of this quest, if we can speak of conclusion, we find not a closed end, not a definitive answer, but an opening, an expansion, an invitation to keep seeking, to keep exploring, to keep living. For the eternal quest does not end, does not stop, does not close. It is a continuous cycle, an ascending spiral that takes us deeper and deeper, higher and higher, closer and closer to truth, peace, and fulfillment. This final chapter is an invitation to embrace the eternal quest, to live with the awareness that life is a continuous process of discovery, learning, and growth. It is an invitation to let go of the need for definitive answers, to stop seeking security in the known, and open ourselves to the mystery, to the uncertainty, to the wonder of the unknown. Because it is only in the space of openness, of not knowing, of being willing to explore, that we can truly live, that we can truly experience the fullness of life, that we can truly find what we have been seeking. In this endless journey, I invite you to be brave, to be curious, to be open to what life offers you in every moment. I invite you to remember that the quest is not a means to an end, but an end in itself, a way of living, a way of being. Because it is only when we embrace the eternal quest, when we surrender the process of discovering, learning, and growing, that we find true peace, true happiness, true fulfillment. This is the end of this book, but it is not the end of the quest. It is a new beginning, a new stage in your journey, a new opportunity to keep exploring, to keep searching, to keep living. Because life itself is an eternal quest, And in that quest, in that journey, we find the true essence of what it means to be human, what it means to be alive, what it means to be part of the grand mystery of the universe. Epilogue. And so, we have reached the end of this literary voyage. Though we know well that in the quest for self, there are no endings, but only new beginnings. The words you have read are but a reflection of what already resides within you, a reminder of the innate wisdom we all possess, yet often forget amidst the clamor of daily life. This book, born of anonymity, does not aim to offer conclusive answers, but rather to incite the reader to continuous reflection, to an internal exploration that never ceases. Throughout its pages, we have traversed together the paths of simplicity, presence, effort, and redemption. And though the journey has been long, it is now, in this very moment, that the true voyage begins. Each chapter has been an invitation to delve deeper into oneself, to shed illusions, and to embrace the truth of who we are. But beyond the printed words, it is your experience, your interpretation, your lived reality that breathes life into this text. In the stillness that follows the closing of these pages, I invite you to carry with you not just the ideas, but the essence of what has been shared here. For ultimately, the eternal quest is not something we read or learn, but something we live moment by moment, with every breath, with every heartbeat. May these words accompany you on your journey, inspiring you to keep exploring, to keep searching, to keep living with authenticity and depth. Because, as we have learned, the true treasure is not in the destination, but in the journey itself. Continue your transformation. If this resonated with you, don't leave it here. On the Chronicle of Knowledge channel, you'll find a complete playlist to follow this process step by step. Each chapter is designed to break one more excuse, to bring you a little closer to the you deserve to be. You're not alone, but you are responsible. Click, listen, and keep moving forward. Your transformation has only just begun.